What if your favorite Pokemon got a regional form? Last month, I asked you to imagine exactly that, and illustrate a regional form for any Pokemon that you would like, for a fun summer-themed art challenge. In the spirit of the season, imagine your favorite Pokemon went on a vacation to a region of their choice, that they are not originally from, and thus changed their personality, look, and powers accordingly. I allowed my viewers to dream big and pick any Pokemon in any region that they would like as a combination. That means of over the 3 dozen excellent entries that we got in this contest, we've got more Alolan, Paldean, and Galarian forms of classic Pokemon that we all know and love, and vice versa. Some newer Pokemon that took a trip to older regions like Hoenn, Sinnoh, or Unovan, and took on forms that we've never seen before, in places that have never gotten regional forms before. I'm now going to run through the exemplary 35 entries that we got in this challenge, and share my thoughts and reactions on the designs that you came up with, noting which ones that I thought were truly exemplary and captured the magic of the regional form gimmick that we all know and love. And at the end, I will be sharing updates on future projects and how you can get involved in a future art challenge just like this one, so be sure to stay tuned. Without further ado, let's get into it. First, we can take a look at the classic Kanto region, where tons of newer Pokemon seem to travel to and experience some kind of change for this relatively plain region. Starting with Johtonian Binacle from skunkyspinda. The artist explained that this Pokemon is a water and dark type, which are most often found stuck to boats in the Kanto region. I love how Binacle looks like it's in a little bag, and Barbaracle has just the right amount of fluff to look like clothing without it being too humanoid. The pre-existing stripes on these Pokemon work great, now to resemble the stripes on seafaring uniforms like sailors or pirates. But according to the artist, they are based on beach trash, fitting for the polluted Kanto region, and Japanese thieves, as these forms of Binacle are known to steal stuff and stash it away for their personal use. I love that Kanto finally has a dark type of its own, and I think these concepts are really solid. They'd fit into modern Kanto perfectly while having some more historical origins that make for a nice cultural fit into the region. Now get out of the water, because we have another water and dark type in Alolan Drednaw by Martin Rizalski. This Pokemon lowers its defense and bulk to gain some speed and a sleeker alligator-like design to navigate through the rough waters of Kanto's southern bay, where many strong water types live, rather than the gentle ponds of Galar. It's honestly shocking that Drednaw wasn't already a dark type due to its propensity to bite like crazy. Finally, this gives Drednaw a much needed stab on bite and crunch, but this variant adds on some nice exaggerated spikes and a darker color palette that feels very nostalgic to me, both because it feels very Gen 1, while also being a more subdued change for a regional form, like many of the original Alolan forms before the concept got really wild in Galar. Now our first regional evolution comes with Cantonian Spidops and its new evolution, Jorops. These Pokemon lean into the incredibly common Kanto typing of Poison, joining the fray of the region's many bug-poison dual types. These Pokemon live in Viridian Forest, and uses its mastery of web building to produce venomous, and in the case of Jorops, pheromone-laced silk to trap other Pokemon and Spidops itself, which gets added to Jorops' harem. I love Jorops. It feels very natural without being over-designed, because in my opinion, Paldean's Spidops kind of feels incomplete, like it's missing some details to look like a fully evolved Pokemon, so this was really satisfying. I also love the color palette of teal and purple. It's a lot brighter than many Kanto Pokemon would have been, while still looking very naturally venomous, like many real-world creatures that secrete poison. But my favorite Cantonian form submission was certainly Cantonian Hatterene by Whoops, which gives us another missing Kanto type. This form is normal and fairy type and is inspired by another aspect of Japanese culture, Lolita fashion, which originated and is popular in Harajuku, Tokyo, where Kanto is based on, of course. I love when a regional form completely changes the personality of the Pokemon solely based on its colors and look. In this case, going for a wider earth tone dress to make it go from cold and detached in its tower to something cozy and adorable. I think the artist really nailed the level of detail in the dress's curls and frills to make it ornate enough to be a final evolution while also looking cute, plain, and down to earth. fitting for Pokemon's first generation and its simplicity. I also can't compliment the color palette enough. I think the brown and cream is a very satisfying combo that almost reminds me of baked pastries. Not sure if this was the intention, but it's fitting in my eyes, as many fairy types are somewhat based on sweets, and it's the de facto food type for Pokemon. Very well done. Now onto Johto, where we begin with Johtonian Mimikyu by Escondida17. It's crazy how solely due to Ecruteak City and its surrounding areas, Johto is almost universally associated with the warm changing leaves of autumn. And this artist totally takes advantage of that natural association by creating a Mimikyu that uses falling leaves to mimic presumably bear Pokemon like Ursaring. The artist based this one vaguely on sun bears, which I think works well for the color palette and different color leaves on the chest. I appreciate the differentiation between a sleeping and a disguised form, compared to an outstretched one where it leaps out to scare away Pokemon like Stantler, Sudowoodo, or Furret. This is a submission that I am really fascinated by, and I would love to see this concept fully rendered in the Sugimori art style. The other, and my favorite Johto submission, was this variant of Eldegoss by Bloody359, another autumnal Pokemon that has layered concepts according to the artist. It's based on Japanese paper lanterns, kimonos, spell tags, and the Obon Festival, a Buddhist festival where one honors their ancestors that have passed away. This grass and ghost type apparently lives in Ecruteak City and plays a large role in a festival to respect and guide the Pokemon who perished when the Brass Tower burned down, because they'll guide these lost spirits to the afterlife peacefully. Both conceptually and artistically, I am very impressed by this one. We don't have many warm-toned ghost Pokemon, and I find the color of this Pokemon's wispy flame or smoke very satisfying. I also think the artist nailed the official Pokemon art style by adding a bunch of different little details and shades of red without it feeling overwhelming. This is a very soothing design that I think really captures why we all love Johto's cozy and traditional aesthetic. Now we head off to the tropical Hoenn region and kick things off with this full family: Hoennian Dino, Zweilous, and the new Pokemon Seadragon by Ebrov9935. Fittingly, this one lives in the vast and tropical waters of the Hoenn region and migrates over their lifetimes from the shallow seas near Slateport to the deeper currents near Pacific Log. Whereas Hydreigon is based on the concept of heads that fight one another and are rooted in hate and anger, Seadragon is a lot more peaceful, and the artist says the heads will work together to strategically create vortexes to hunt for schools of fish or Pokemon. I enjoy the rugged fluff of these Pokemon being turned into a more sleek and starfish-like ring around the neck. And I'd love to see how Seadragon's personality would look in a more detailed render, since the concept here is really cool. Now for more fun in the water, we have the Water Fairy Pyukumuku variant from gothfoxx, who explains that these ones got their typing from eating the abundant heart scales in the region, which of course are shed by Lovedisc. They're sought after by Pokemon breeders for contests due to their vibrant colors, with both purple and pink variants. I love this idea, similar to Gastrodon of the Pokemon having multiple vibrantly colored forms. I mean, the sea is vast enough for all sort of cool colors and patterns, right? Now we move to the skies and jungles of Eastern Hoenn with Hoennian Corviknight by Jack of All Trades, who gives us a grass and flying type who turn a regal shade of white to keep cool under the hot Hoenn sun, as well as the lower iron content in the rocks of Hoenn apparently, which causes it to lose its steel type, and competition with the local Aggron, who pushed Corviknight away from its previous niche. I appreciate that element of ecological world building. The artist goes on to say how these smart Pokemon, just like real ravens, learned to use a different kind of tool, in this case wood and sap, to create its own form of armor. This one feels so natural to me. I love how the Pokemon takes advantage of tools to build believable armor for itself that resembles samurai gear, and the elegance of the horns that extend from its beak is a nice dynamic touch. Ending things in Hoenn with my favorite form is Hoennian Druddigon by T-Ace Juice. This one is a dragon and rock type, a great type combo that I wish we had more of, by the way, a typing that it got just from hanging out around Mount Chimney. This one feels really natural, if that makes sense. I love that it basically lost its wings, and with those giant claws and feet, it's easy to imagine it crawling around the rocky outcrops of northern Hoenn. I think the choice to make the rocks almost obsidian black is really cool as well, making this Pokemon a good contrast from its famously vibrant tricolor original form. Amazing work. Now let's move to the snowy, mountainous, and mysterious Sinnoh region with our first submission, Hoennian Jigglypuff and Wigglytuff from the Puff. These Pokemon opt for a more direct inspiration from an individual Pokemon, Darkrai, which is very unique for a regional form. It's said by the artist that these Pokemon found a home on New Moon Island and got corrupted by the legendary Pokemon and now use its haunting lullabies to put its foes to sleep. The only thing that I find scarier than stuff that's made to be creepy is cute stuff that is inadvertently creepy, and this Pokemon nails that vibe, taking once pastel and round designs that are now jagged and unsettling in a good way. I love it. Next, we have Sinnohan Psyduck and the original evolution Goroduck by Chaplin, who says these electric Pokemon suffer from stomach aches rather than headaches due to the static electricity inside Mount Coronet that makes their tummies hurt. These poor guys can't catch a break. The evolution Goroduck is much more like Snorlax, in the sense that it is huge and gluttonous, feeding off of electricity from the mountain, and I can definitely appreciate these more vague designs that harken back to Pokemon's first few generations. Goroduck especially is big and bulky in a way that is making me very nostalgic for those group of Generation 4 evolutions like Rhyperior or Lickilicky. NJ's Sinnoh and Teddiursa, Ursaring, and Ursolara are more Sun-Bear-inspired Pokemon, paying tribute to Floroma's honey-filled meadows with these Pokemon, that are gluttons for combi nests and the sweet nectar within. The original Ursolara is a nice change from prior bear Pokemon, being upright and a lot skinnier, turning the honey into molten fuel for both energy and fire. I love the personality change across the entire line, going from more lethargic and sleepy to something sly and energetic. I also love the final form's use of honey on the face and the paws, almost like armor, just to give another dimension to a relatively simple concept. Next, here's Sinnohan Darmanitan by Sassafrassanid, a water type that lives in the region's mountainous hot springs to keep their temperatures up with the loss of their flame sacs. Similar to Volcanion, it's a reminder that we don't have enough steam Pokemon as a form of heat, and I think the rendering of steam billowing out of its eyebrows are really nice. A great use of body features to further the concept in a way that official Pokemon designs rarely do. It gives this Pokemon a really memorable silhouette, and it's cool that it feels so true to the Sinnoh region and its real-world inspiration, Hokkaido, without us ever having seen a hot spring in the modern Sinnoh games, interestingly. Continuing the cold weather theme is the water-ice type Sandaconda from GymLeaderJC, which is known to float around the icy waters of northern Sinnoh. Another thing we don't have enough of is sea snakes, and I like how the artist cleverly made Sandaconda's unique coiled-up look into a life raft or a buoy. A great example of reappropriating a Pokemon's most distinct visual feature and giving it a completely different meaning with a regional form. However, my favorite Sinnohan form is certainly Liam's Sinnohan Snorlax, a dark normal type that kinda turns into a burly mountaineer, or a reclusive hermit, as it's said that they prefer to be left alone on desolate peaks like Mount Coronet. This is proof that a simple change can go a very long way. I love the extension of the fluff to make a very subtle beard, and the color palette is also so restrained, just different enough to be unique and striking. I also find the artist's almost watercolor-like style to be very charming. Again, it's designs like this that make me feel like regional forms are a near limitless well of creativity, just because of the satisfaction that I get from seeing such a minor but tasteful change to a beloved Pokemon. Briefly, we take a diversion to the distant past with the one and only, and also my favorite, Hisuian form, an ice psychic Natu and Xatu from Auke. The artist explained that these Pokemon were sent by a divine power, likely Arceus, to find enlightenment in earlier times, and now stand guard atop Mount Coronet. The presentation here is really nice, almost reminding me of TCG art. I also love how natural it feels for Natu and Xatu to go from the more southwest Native American look that fits rocky or desert environments to this white or cyan cloak for wings that fits a colder northern place like Sinnoh or Hisui really nicely, almost like an Inuit snow cloak. Now we move back to the modern era and into Unovan with this dragon fairy Dratini from Forgotten Moonweaver. The artist says this form is inspired by the Pokemon drinking too many sweet treats in Castelia City. It's fitting then that this friendly and cute Pokemon gets this adorable variant, and from what I can tell, the textured skin of this Pokemon is specifically inspired by dragon fruit. So another neat element that I can appreciate. The only other, and my favorite Unovan form, is this Unovan Alchemy, an Ice Fairy type by King Max G. From what the artist provided, there are many possible forms for this Pokemon, all inspired by ice cream flavors, and I really appreciate that, to both stay true to alchemy and also avoid any similarities with the Vanillite family. I think this base form is a really nice touch with a very restrained color palette, and I would like to see how some of the different forms like watermelon or Dubai chocolate, pistachio, would look. Onto the Elegant Kalos region, we began with Collision Rockruff, Lycanroc, and bonus Mega Evolutions from Churro T Nerd, who says that these Pokemon came to replace their plain rocks with crystals after coming into contact with the mythical Diancie, possibly in the Reflection Cave. It's a nice detail as well, that these Pokemon have a bit more fluff, possibly to fit in a colder climate than their home Alola. It's like turning into a husky from a different dog breed, whatever Lycanroc is based on. It just feels like a generic dog to me. I also like how the contrast between its midnight and midday forms are even more pronounced here, with longer red crystals versus wider blue ones. The second and my favorite Collision form has gotta be the Collision Litwick family from Aranja Art, a group of fairy and electric types that you would find lighting up elegant manors like the Parfume Palace. The transformation from a duller candlewick to a pristine ornate ballroom chandelier is very satisfying, and a good example on how to keep the exact same silhouette of a Pokemon, but switch up on its most minute details, like color and accessories, to result in a big change. For some reason, this exact shade of yellow is very delicious to me, and I love how many different types of opacity and exact shapes are used throughout the family while still feeling very cohesive when you look at all of them together. I love this family, and they perfectly capture the beauty of Pokemon's Frenchiest region. Now onto Alola, where we find Alolan Mawile from Ravenblack, also known as Brownie, an Ice Fairy type adding to the canon of Pokemon that turn icy when they venture up Mount Lanakila. I love how unique this one is, simply because basically all ice types that we have already are sleek, white, and made of snow or actual ice, whereas this one emphasizes woolliness and more detailed, rugged shapes of fur, so it really stands apart, especially because of the darker coloration. I also really like how covering up its face really plays up a mysterious vibe, like we can't read its expression fully. Alolan Gastrodon by Mega Rayquaza, a water grass type, is very cute, as you would expect for a Pokemon based on the leaf sheep invertebrates that live underwater. It definitely fits the pure and vibrant waters of the Alola region, and I think the artist did a nice job of being restrained here, only changing up the back of this Pokemon with a tasteful amount of leaf-like protrusions that don't just feel like they're tacked on as actual leaves. This regional form just feels really believable, which I think is a nice sign of success. Now Neronian region gives us Alolan Rotom, which has a base fairy ghost form, fitting for the vibrant and happy atmosphere of Hau'oli City, with variants based on sand buckets that take up the ground type, a normal type umbrella, and another ice form, this time being a cooler that you would take to a beach day. I am a huge sucker for Rotom forms based on just about anything. It's another pretty limitless concept in Pokemon. So I love these guys based on objects of leisure and play, rather than household appliances. I also appreciate the artist showing interactions with other objects like a sand pail, beach towel, and ice cubes to show how this Pokemon would move or fight. We have another hot spring Darmanitan, this time a water-fire type, courtesy of Lil Rolls, who makes this one look a lot more happy than chill. I like the contrast of blue and red, almost reminding me of those thermometer readers to convey the concept of heat with this Pokemon, as well as the fact that it's very happy but still relaxed by sitting on its throat pouch. Kinda makes this mammalian Pokemon feel almost frog-like, and it's another great example on how to convey Pokemon's personality with its static default artwork. Now Alolan Noibat and the new Pokemon Moyalope by Tissy, otherwise known as Joanne Joseph, are very vibrant ice-flying and ice-fighting Pokemon, a drastic change. inspired by the native kings of Alola and the vibrant artwork and patterning of Hawaiian royalty. Very bold color choices on display that I think could definitely work if pared down slightly into the official Pokemon art style. There's something really nice about the pure white wings or cloak-like body that burst out into these very ornate patterns to show how this Pokemon is insulated from the cold, but also still very fitting for a tropical island. We have yet another Alolan Noibat and original Pokemon, this time Hyotaurus, two grass and ghost types that would fit in well to Alola's lush jungle. They're based on the Alolan Horeibat, whose name derives from their half-leaf shapes, apparently, so it's somewhat of a visual pun. I like the intensity of Hyotaurus's wispy branch-like collar, and the fact that its snub nose works well as a leaf. It's very natural as a grass type. Next up is Durduncle Velp's trio of Alolan Tynamo, Electric, and new Pokemon Amakau, which derives from Electric Amperes and the Hawaiian Macau, or Fishhook. These vibrant Pokemon are water and dragon types, a type combo that I absolutely love. They display aggression and intensity in a really cool way with their varied facial expressions, and I love the choices of colors here as well. It's perfect for the Alola region. These Pokemon look like they would be revered and respected, almost like Milotic or Gyarados. But my favorite Alolan form on display here is definitely this water poison Pincurchin from the potato, which makes its way over to Alola to finally meet its best buddy, Pyukumuku. Crazy how we already have both Quillfish and Toxapex, yet this Pokemon still feels unique to me, once again thanks to those vibrant Alola colors and patterns. It really does feel like something you'd see on a shallow tropical beach and definitely not want to step on. Ending on those needle-like purple spots is very satisfying, and again, crazy how much a simple color and pattern change can go in making a regional form without having to touch the Pokemon silhouette at all. I also like the change to its alien-like eyes and the purple pincer-like mouth to give it an air of mystery and aggression while still feeling really cute. Now off to the Galar region, where we have Galarian Marill and Azumarill from Mice. These dark fairy Pokemon are inspired by ballet in the sport of tetherball, which I didn't know was British at all. I like the idea of these innocent Marill being subject to bullying and cruelty from their coach, in this case the mean Azumarill, before evolving to become that same Pokemon due to the bad influence. It plays on tropes of both intense ballet and sports instructors, and it's a great example of how to storytell solely with a Pokemon's personality. Galarian Misdreavus and Mismagius by Dodo are also pretty neat, fitting right into the mystical Glimwood Tangle. These ghost and fairy types do a good job of flipping the base family's concept as ragged, terrifying apparitions into something a bit more posh, elegant, and polite. Rather than having a worn-down hat, they have a nice fancy brim, kind of like a high society old British lady or something. The Pokemon's dex entry may also reference the 27 Club. What with the artist saying, many great Galarian artists have had a Galarian Misdreavus as their lifelong partner and muse, though these artists are also known to all die young. Interesting. Moving on, the next one also plays with a nice personality swap, with the regal Galarian King Gambit from Mando, who says these fighting and steel-type Pokemon evolved due to Bisharp gaining more of a sense of honor and discipline in the Galar region. Another example of how a Pokemon's personality is driving its visual design. The swap of its hardened hair as a seat, which I always disliked about base King Gambit, for this awesome throne really seals the deal in this design, which also obviously references the Arthurian Sword of Legend. This Pokemon really encapsulates the spirit of Galar, but I think my favorite by a small margin was certainly Galarian Solosis Duosion and the new Pokemon Draconicless by Landon Loading, a family of Psychic and Dragon types. Though conceptually pretty simple, the artist took a big swing by having a fairly humanoid Pokemon turn into a dragon, and a pretty unique looking one at that. It's almost horse-like, with the new Pokemon willing its fluid body into the shape of one. For some reason, I just can't get enough of the dragon body. It looks so cute with its rounded, imperfect shapes. Like, this guy isn't fooling anyone, but darn it, he's just having so much fun doing it, and I have to hand it for Landon for dreaming big and making a truly original Pokemon. Now we reach for our final region, Paldea, with 2 exemplary designs. First up is Paldean Shuckle, and the new Pokemon Wormocle, another draconic family. This time, because of all the delicious herba mystica that the Shuckle was regularly eating. I think this family captures the magic of regional forms really well. On one hand, the first stage Shuckle is pretty similar to its original Johtonian form, just with more upright proportions and sharper features that denote a bit of a draconic edge. Meanwhile, its evolution goes really wild and incorporates a brand new head and a bunch of new shapes for a Pokemon, which seems to be ascending into a more mystical state. Kudos to the artist for embracing both sides of the regional form spectrum in one evolution line. And last but certainly not least, we have Ink to Paper's Paldean Wooloo and Woolapsed, pure ghost types inspired by the concept of sacrificial lambs, the European Krampus myth, and shamans. These are flawless pieces of art that feel really in line with the philosophy of pre-existing ghost types in terms of color and detail, while still having some very unique elements like a unique body shape for the evolution, cool eyes that make it feel a bit unknowable, and these cool horns that curl into the body and protrude out of the fur. It's hinting at something gory, while still being very Pokemon friendly and realistic. And I think that's the mark of special artwork. It can evoke a feeling without expressly showing it, and that's why this is my favorite Paldean form today. And with that, we have run through each and every regional form that you have all submitted to this challenge. I want to say a huge thank you to every artist involved. Before you go though, I would like to announce that due to the overwhelming popularity of this contest, I am formally announcing the next art challenge right now. That's right, if you partook in this challenge, or if you're just coming across this video and you're an artist of your own that wants a chance to work on some fun fake mon art with a prompt, now is your chance to submit your original artwork and have it featured in a future video on the channel. This time, I am asking you to draw your dream Pokemon gym leader. You can choose to make them based around a specific type, as most canon gym leaders are, or base them around a theme or profession, like making them a rancher, sailor, astronaut, or anything you can imagine. The only requirement is that it must be full body artwork, that they must inhabit a canon town in the Pokemon world, and you must submit this art over a white or transparent background by August 20th, just 10 days from tomorrow. The fun part is that there will be a second leg of this challenge the day after, on August 21st, where I pair up all entries, and you won't be drawing an ace Pokemon for the gym leader that you drew, but rather your partner's. How will you interpret the personality, interests, profession, and aesthetics that your partner drew? Well, that's up to you, and you must submit that second part by September 2nd, so that I can compile and react to the final pairings in a video to release just over a month from now. But don't worry about that part yet. All you need to know is that if you want to participate in part 1, go ahead and join my community Discord with the link right down below, where all details, guidelines, and deadlines for this challenge are live right now. I hope to see many of you participate, and I'm thrilled at the positive reception that these art challenges have gotten, so I'm really excited to just keep it going all through the fall. Thank you all for making art challenges such a big part of this channel and community. Also, if you like the sound of my voice and you want even more Tam Valley in your life, please make sure to join my weekly live streams every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, as I live stream a variety of content and hang out with all of you. Right now we are running through Alola and a Pokemon Sun Nuzlocke, and I'm gonna need all the moral support I could get. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time for more content.